Welcome back to the Bunk Podcast. In the right corner, we have Crazy Lefties. In the left corner, we have the Bunk Podcast.
Hello. Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
So it's just Jason and I today. I was at a bar last night talking to we'll get into it later. I feel like we'll end up talking about that a little bit. But we were talking about kind of like Amy Klobuchar. She's declaring to run, I think, on Monday here. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I like Amy Klobuchar. We're both from Minnesota. She's a very mild liberal from what I've heard, so I figured we'd look her up, kind of see what she's voted on. Jason, what do you think? Gotta make a drink, so mind?
Well, I mean, she's from Minnesota, and since she's pretty moderate, I'm down for that. Because, just because people are, like, I would love a respectable, moderate Democrat who is willing to come to the table and is willing to not be a fucking nut. But on abortion, she's pro-choice. Like, a lot of the stuff I would have issue with, but it's like, it's the degree. I mean, obviously we're going to disagree with Democrats because we're Republican, but I think it's the degree in...
Yeah, I think you're right there, too. And it's interesting, like, if we have a pro-choice, Obama was pro-choice during his presidency. Beforehand, I don't think he was, or maybe that was gay marriage. I think that was gay marriage that he kind of flip-flopped on.
Yeah, I mean, I think President Trump was the only one who, like, started as...
President Trump was pro-choice, and then when he started running, he was pro-life, and then they had to kind of appeal to both bases there.
But I think Trump was the only one who, like, started into politics definitively. Same-sex marriage is whatever. It's fine.
Yeah, that might be because he came in late.
But it's just fun to say.
Yeah, it is. It's a little win.
I know it changes with the culture, but, like,
Yeah, I agree with you.
It sounds good.
Yeah, I like it.
I like
the way it makes me feel.
I want to trick people because we're all evil.
I like lying to everyone.
All right, welcome back to the Republican evil meeting. So we hate blacks. Let's get that off the table. That's what we always start with.
Yeah. Well, I lost my train of thought here. What does it even matter if we have a pro-choice president? Everything is fucking pro-choice. We have people saying, let's just kill babies. So, like, it honestly, that thing for me, like, that's not a deal breaker for me. Some of the other stuff could be, but, like, as long as that shit that in New York where they're, like, literally gonna kill a baby, if that doesn't get passed, then Trump is pro-life and nothing's happened. So obviously, like, it's hard to get any legislation passed. There'd be, like, I feel like a fucking riot in the streets if any pro-life legislation got passed.
Yeah, it'd be a riot in the streets. There's riots in the street already. It's the Women's March.
Yeah.
But I'm not a one-track pony. Like, I don't just vote on one issue.
Yeah.
Abortion is, like, not the most important to me. Like, right now, I'm, like, pro-life for the most part. The only thing is if, like
rape and incest?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's, like, the smallest amount. I'll be like, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
And I acknowledge that, like, morally, you can't win an argument with a pro-life person.
No. If they know their facts, if they're morally sound, yeah, I don't think, it's all up to, like, the linguistics at that point. Like, I've seen people that are pro-choice, like, destroy people that are pro-life even when they had all the facts on their side and all the, what would you say? Like, just the common sense, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like the infanticide bill, like, that is somewhere I'll be like, okay, that's literally a baby is born and you kill it. That is like let's cut that off there.
Mm-hmm.
Because deep in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, if someone wants, like, because America's all about liberty and freedom. If someone wants the freedom to do that, I understand it's killing a life, but, like, pro-life people cannot have abortions. That's the one thing. So if we have a pro-abortion or a pro-choice, if we had a pro-choice person as president, that wouldn't turn me off completely. That sounds weird, but
Mm-hmm.
that's not on the highest issues for me. The highest issues are pretty like basic general stuff. Do you want to keep talking about Klobuchar? What else?
Well, I'm looking at here. We pulled up all the Vote Smart pages for each of the Democratic candidates for 2020 here, and I'm gonna read them off here. They're on my iPad, so just give me a second. Yeah, so we got Klobuchar, Joe Biden, Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, Beto O'Rourke, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and Howard Schultz. So I guess looking at that list, what sticks out to you besides Amy Klobuchar? Because we already kind of mentioned that's kind of what we were leaning towards.
I can tell you what I think personally.
Yeah.
Let's see. Kamala Harris, totally off the table for me. Bernie Sanders, obviously.
She's cool, man. She's sick. She's smart.
Moving on, she's not smart. Moving on, Beto O'Rourke, I don't know too much about him. Elizabeth Warren, just cringy. I wouldn't say, I'm fuck Elizabeth Warren, her idea. I'm just dude, she's cringy as hell. Cory Booker is just a fucking dope. Amy Klobuchar, Joe Biden, honestly, meh.
Yeah, same. I'm kind of the same with Joe Biden. Joe Biden's such an old Democrat. I have a feeling he's not gonna. I feel like he appeals most to the moderate base, which is the majority of the country. It might not seem like it, but God, I hope it is. And the rest of them are pretty far left from him. But at the same time, Beto O'Rourke's pretty far left, but he's got that face, man. He's like JFK. He's just the good-looking guy. He's young. He almost won in fucking Texas, which is crazy. The
Scary.
fact that it's super scary. I guess for just all those immigrants moving in from California. Not immigrants, but just people moving out of California and out of these liberal states into Texas. They get some. I think we've talked about it before. They get a crazy amount of new people living there, and I'm guessing they're probably all not as strict about their, everyone's a constitutionalist in Texas.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
But they have to go somewhere. It's basically, it's socialists or Islamists.
Yeah.
Basically, they try something somewhere, goes to shit, and all right, well, let's try it somewhere else. And that's what really scares me. That someone Bernie Sanders doesn't scare me because it's oh, socialist, dude, tax the 1%. It's okay, yeah, you know what you're doing with Bernie, but behind, Beto O'Rourke, that's what scares me, because it's yeah, you can appeal to a younger audience, but deep down, it seems like it's I wouldn't say it's social, but, I get the feeling that he's a lefty. He's a lefty. He's not a Democrat,
well,
he's a lefty.
let's look at his Vote Smart page here before we go too far. And so he's pro-choice. Okay, so here we go. This is cool. In order to balance the budget, do you support an income tax increase on any tax bracket? So with all the candidates I've looked at so far, which has been 5, every Democrat has voted yes.
Yeah.
And the 2 Republicans I looked at were the 2 people that were up against Trump in 2016, Ted Cruz and John Kasich, and they both voted no on this, and he voted no on this.
That's good.
So that's kind of cool to see that he's not willing to, just tax the fuck out of people. That might just be a thing where he's not willing to tax the middle class, which is huge.
But here's the thing: you say you tax the rich, and then first off, all of these are inferred. They're not official positions. I don't think I've seen an official position on here. I'm not saying it'll change, but it definitely can. There's a lot of unknowns, which mean they could just totally flip, and not in red favor. But yeah, that's that's what scares me, and yeah, but here's the when you I'm not gonna tax the middle class at the super high rate that the lefties are proposing, 70-80%, whatever. All the rich people are gonna leave, because they can.
Yep.
And that's that doesn't mean they're morally
wrong. No, yeah.
That doesn't mean they're immoral. It's just they're gonna be all right, well, I don't want to why should I give you 7% of my money?
Yeah.
And then the middle class is gonna pay for it.
It's crazy because like I was watching a video and it was like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez like explaining her tax for the rich, not anyone else. She seems to never explain like that she needs to tax the middle class a lot more than what is being done right now. She just kind of talks about the 70%. So she says like on your $10 millionth dollar, like in her crazy fucking bug-eyed voice, she's like, you'll be taxed at 70%, and like, you know, you can't do anything about it. And like that's so everywhere on your way up to 10 million you're getting taxed, and then once you hit 10 million, every dollar you make after that you're making 30 cents. And that's from just federal taxes, and then you have state taxes, and then you have like Medicare, Medicaid, and that's like down to nothing. You're like basically just fucking, you're like, why am I even working? Why am I incentivized to make money? Get the fuck out of here.
So when they refer to like on your $10th millionth dollar, we like, tax like.
Do you become immoral after you make $10 million? Like I don't understand it.
I do want to address that, but when they say like once you hit 1 million or 100 million, 1 million,
10 million.
Once you hit 10 million, it's just the federal tax rate.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a whole nother fucking thing. But yeah, like 7% tax rate is really just add another 10%. Honestly.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that is because she said that millionaires or billionaires like basically are immoral. So it's like once you hit 10 million, it's like your heart just turns into a ball of charcoal, and you're just immoral.
Yeah, you're just a robot trying to get money.
And so you're more immoral than a person who's just living off the government and is basically just like stealing from people.
Yeah. Not
like directly, but indirectly.
Yeah, and like it's not that my heart doesn't go out to people that are, you know, either mentally ill, living on the streets, or just like came upon addiction or something like that. You know, like that's not the issue, because that's a huge issue. But it can't be solved by just doing something that's wrong. You can't just take 70% of someone's money, especially in America. Like that's the thing. It's shocking to see that this type of stuff is being celebrated. Like this is America. This is where people came to make money. This is where people came. They had no idea where the fuck they were going. They went here. They went west. Like it was just a bloodbath, just trying to make money. And like, if you don't like it, get the fuck out. Go to Denmark. Go to like wherever the hell these socialist havens are. Go live there. Like my teacher today was talking about, I think in Sweden or Norway, he just mentioned this lightly, and I love the teacher. Like, one of my favorite teachers I've ever had. Has taught me a lot, but he's definitely like far left. But he's cool. I don't care. Like I get along with him. He was saying like how they were proud to pay 70% tax rate because no one's freezing in the streets, and it's like that's great. Like
you can send it to the U.S. Treasury. You can do it right now.
Yeah, well, like, and that's the thing. It's like those countries exist, but that's not what this country is for. You know, like we're not in the Arctic Circle. We don't, you know, half of the country isn't freezing to death, and we're a capitalist system, and that's what we were based upon. That's what we were founded upon. And that's what brought the mass amounts of wealth to everyone in the world from that.
Yeah, and the Scandinavian countries, like the left likes to call it socialist utopias. I think one of them might actually be socialist, but they're not all actually socialist. They're capitalists with some like socialist attributes.
Yeah, they're market economies.
So that's how they kind of sneak it under the rug, and that they're not true Venezuela. They're like, okay, we're capitalist, but we have socialist. Like I think it was one of the Scandinavian countries. Bernie Sanders said it was socialist, and that Scandinavian country came out and was like, yeah, that's like we're not straight up socialist. Mm-hmm. I think Stoss has a good video on that, just totally debunking it. But.
Okay, so let's look. I was looking at a list at some point here, and I was like, okay, what? I came across something where America was like ranked super low on the amount of freedom we have. And I found the list where it's like it ranks the freest countries. And I don't know if this is numbered. It says the top 20 freest countries in the world. It starts off with Hong Kong, and that's not a country. So that kind of worries me. But
yeah, I think... Okay, so can I say one thing?
Yeah.
I think they take all of because we have a lot of like regulations and shit. Like it was
a ton.
There was like I know I'm referring to Stoss a lot, but there was a Stoss video where somewhere in China or Japan, you start a business like that. Like you just go and sign up and pay one fee, and you have like you can have your own business. But at the same time,
Hong Kong, yeah,
the country of Hong Kong. But it's basically like communist. They're, like if you throw gum in the street, your like citizen profile goes down.
Is that a real thing?
Yeah, it's like
gum in the street.
Well, it's like if you do little things like you're like you have like a government. This is totally sounds.
Yeah,
I'm not like
you're Alex Jones in it right now.
Yeah, but basically, I think it's China, where you have like a profile, basically, like you as a person, you're like rated, like if you spit gum in the street, or you litter, like you go down.
Yeah, okay.
Like a rank, and it's like yeah, spitting gum is bad, I guess. Littering is bad, but like that doesn't. Why should the government be like, you suck? Unless I actually commit a crime. Yeah, but it's like, if I throw an apple out the window, don't put me down a fucking rank.
Well, yeah, it's just this all, like, I mean, I don't know. There's not really that much to go into there besides, like, it blows. Like, it's just a whirlwind of people just, like, stomping on each other and, like, nothing ever gets done. Besides that, like the fact that you can sign up, like that's a good thing. Sign up and get a business, like that's solid. Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, Switzerland, and United States is down there. I was gonna say something, I forgot what it was.
I think a big thing is, I'm not sure how this works, but I feel like as for like freedoms of countries, they count each issue as like one, but there's issues that are like more important. So if a country doesn't have freedom of speech, which is every country except America, that's counted as one versus like, don't litter. Yeah. Or I guess with freedoms, like you can start a business in like 5 minutes or whatever. Yeah. It's like no, freedom of speech is like it's way up there. If a country doesn't have freedom of speech, which is every country except America, that's you're not free. And basically be thrown in front of human rights tribunals for having your dog sea hauling. But, so yeah. America is racist.
Fuck, well, I lost my train of thought. I had, like, a big thing I wanted to say, before I brought up this country list. Do you want to go back into any of these, do you have any, like, last thoughts on these candidates here that we kind of talked about a little bit?
You want to go one by one? Start with Kamala Harris?
Yeah, I don't have Kamala Harris's up. Why don't you read it off?
Okay, well, obviously pro-choice. In order to balance the budget, do you support an income tax increase on a tax bracket unknown?
That's probably a yes.
Yeah. Do you support mandatory minimum sentences for non-violent drug offenders? No. That's the thing.
That's like a across the board now, I think.
Yeah, well, mandatory. That sounds. It's like one of those things where it sounds good, but it's. I don't think it's that simple because like if you took everything as simple as it is, everyone would vote Democrat. Like we're all against racism, yeah. But then they take this, totally. But there's like in between the lines. You get what I mean, kind of?
Yeah. When I first started reading bills and like figuring out my position on it, I think it was just I voted in the local elections here, not even like the midterms, and I was reading a bill. And I was like, it sounds good, but I don't really... It just had, like, the bill name, or, like, the main issue. And I just didn't end up voting on it. And then I went home and I, like, looked at it and I was like, okay, it has a lot more substance to it than, like, what's going on. And, like, it's the same thing, like, with a lot of these things. Like, some of them are definitely partisan. Like, it's just, like, you're here or there, and it's kind of, like, cut and dry. But, like, a lot of these ones, that's why it's good to look at this. Because you can kind of separate the people that actually have these values in their politics. Like, I'm not saying these people don't have values, but, like, some of them don't bring it into their politics, and, like, it's just kind of, like, appealing to the base.
Yeah, well, I know for Kamala Harris, as far as the economy goes, as for, like, raising and lowering taxes to promote economic growth, she has yes for both. So that's a pretty good thing. Like she's not well, it's inferred, but for the most part, it's not like totally subscribed to one thing. But still, it's like, okay, the left is getting leftier. I wouldn't say the right's getting rightier. It's just there's so much hate on the right. But I feel like it's all inferred, and I don't think the far left, which Kamala Harris is, Bernie Sanders, Beto, Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, probably Joe Biden's soon enough. I'm not sure about that, but they're getting more and more left. And even if the right is getting more right, the left is like getting way more left, to the point where you're killing babies after they're born, and just raising taxes. They say, well,
I hope that this. Sorry to cut you off.
No, that's fine.
I hope that that kind of point is the stepping stone. It's the turning point for the people in America that have been reading CNN, been reading the Washington Post, and been like, okay, I hate Trump, blah, blah, blah. Basically, everyone that is just kind of like casually into politics, which is most people, and I was casually into it, and I was a Democrat. But I hope that some of this stuff can kind of wake up these people, you know, like, not necessarily just wake them up, just get them more interested, and just be like, okay, do I really agree with this? And then you're kind of like looking into the politics of that certain person that voted for that bill. If you're in New York, super far left state, and you're like, hold on, this is getting fucking crazy. Like, I support abortion, but I don't support this. And I hope that we can see that in this election with just, with the votes, and I hope people look at, like, what's been voted, and I hope it comes up in the primaries, too. Like, I'd be interested to see in what these primaries are like and what these candidates are going to say against each other.
Yeah, because once it comes down to it, 2020, it's going to be Trump versus either moderate or super left titans. It's either going to be Howard Schultz or a moderate Amy Klobuchar or Joe Biden, for example, or it's going to be a super left Kamala, Bernie, Beto, Warren, Booker. So they're going to have to choose between one of the two, and since there's so much hate on Trump, I think they're gonna be like socialism, and they're not going to really think about it. So I think that, like, just choosing one of the two, and this isn't a criticism, I guess, on, like, the political system itself, because that's what you have to have.
Yep.
I don't think that's going to breed a lot of success. So that's what I'm really scared about. But in all honesty, if Trump can do well in the debates and he doesn't get too, I don't want to say radical, but if he shuts up and if he just lets the leftists be the leftists, he's going to win. Like, no doubt. Because socialism is pretty short of communism.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of Americans know that. Not a lot of millennials, but...
Yeah, I think definitely people that grew up, what's the generation before us?
Gen X?
No, Gen X is the new one.
Boomers?
The boomers. Gen X is the most conservative generation, too.
Gen X is...
Since, like, World War II.
Gen X is after us, right?
Yeah, Gen X is like my brother.
How old is your brother?
13.
That's awesome, actually.
Yeah, he's conservative.
Hell yeah, dude.
He likes Trump.
Your 13-year-old brother's fucking right. Hell yeah. But
I honestly think, obviously, like, that means absolutely nothing to me as far as, like, how much I like him and stuff. Like, I like him because he's my brother, but, it's cool because they're not growing up in the outrage. Like, I don't think he has any solid positions on anything. He hasn't researched anything. He doesn't know anything. He's 13. But, like, the fact that he's not being taught that, or he's not accepting the fact that, male toxicity or whatever is a thing, and he's not just, like, being trained to be offended by everything, I think it's great. I think that's what kids need, especially young men, and young women, too. I don't know. I'm trying to look for my MacBook charger, but it's gone.
I have one in my backpack, but one thing is, because obviously the media, I would say the media is like 80 left, 20 right. So there's a huge, and I'm not totally just being like, the media, that's why we're losing.
Yeah.
But I think, for example, with your brother.
Oh my god.
Excuse
us?
These fucking Democrats. Fuck. I do think with the Gen Xers, it like with what you told with your brother, I think it might be evening out because there might be a little more pushback on the right.
Well, I think YouTube is a big part of it.
Yeah, because I know, honestly, I feel like and this is totally on the right because I'm right, but the underground intellectuals like Dave Rubin, Jordan Peterson, Crowder, Shapiro, they have much more substance than politicians.
Oh,
and
yeah.
with Trump being elected, I'm not saying for sure, but I feel like there might be a new resurgence. Not resurgence because they didn't start before, but there might be a new beginning of actual like intellect. Because I feel like politicians, they're not stupid, but they're just politicians. I feel like if Ben Shapiro went up against someone, if Ben Shapiro was up against like a female Ben Shapiro, that would be true like intellect. Not just like two politicians kind of just bitching at each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Ooh, shit. Yeah. No, I totally do. And I think that, intellectual dark web, Joe Rogan, all those people, even though they're on the left, they kind of just woke up a shit ton of people just to the fact that there's things going on, and it's good to be aware of it. It's good to, like, care about it. Like, I honestly think it was Joe Rogan that got me into politics. Like,
Yeah.
I think he had a guest on, and I was like, oh, this guy, like, he knows what he's talking about. I agree with his points. And a lot of the points I'd never really heard of, and I was like, why haven't I heard of this? And then I just kind of got into it. But do you have anything else to say? Because I'm about to, like, switch it.
Yeah, like, I know as far as the political spectrum goes, it's either red or blue. I know, like, obviously I'm red, so I don't know much of the red, like, the moderate red and the far right. I guess alt-right, but that's not really a thing. But there's moderate Democrats, like normal people, like / independents, or there's far lefters. And I know it's like we hate, like, Democrats, but people, like, classic liberalism, like, Dave Rubin and Joe Rogan, like, we could disagree on things. Like, I could disagree with, like, a Bernie or a Kamala Harris, but if they're like, like, let's talk about it, instead of just saying, the top 1% and his friends, or, like, intersectionality, like, that's what truly opens up, like, ideology. Like, I could have someone on the, like, I don't want to say far left, but I could have someone on the left who's like, I disagree with you, but let's talk about it. That's what opens me up maybe to considering lefty politics. Well, like, if I talked with a super lefty, and she was like, look, you want to shut down women, you like abortion, and just went total just crusader on my ass, I'd be like, go fuck yourself, like, I'm conservative. But if, like, Dave Rubin was like, but, liberalism, like, people should have the right to, like, choose abortion, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. I think it's how you go about it. I mean, I except for, like, extremities, but I think it's all about how you, like, approach yourself with, like, the dialogue.
Yeah, I think it is too, yeah. And it's a really good segue into what I was going to mention, but I think you mentioned something that I kind of want to talk about. So with abortion, like, we both kind of went through this kind of transformation of, both of us, we became conservative, and we were, at least I know I was kind of like, okay, all these conservatives are super against abortion, like, I don't know how I feel about it, like, I'm 20, 21, whatever, and if I had a kid, it would be crazy. Like, my life would be flipped around, you could say it would be, ruined, but...
At that age, you would abort it, right?
Well, I don't know. At the time. Well, who can say? I probably wouldn't. I don't think I could live with that decision, but it's ultimately not mine.
Just real quick, when I was a freshman in college, I voted for Hillary Clinton. I would probably, if my girlfriend or someone I had sex with had a kid, I would say abort it. But see, now that's where my mind has changed. But what were you saying?
Yeah, maybe when I was a freshman. Yeah, I think we both done some pretty intense growing up by then.
Some intense lovemaking.
Yeah. Well, and like especially like if I did with a random girl like back in freshman year, maybe I don't know. Probably not though. Still, like I probably my choice would be no, but you know, like I said, ultimately the choice is up to the woman. I think. You know, personally, I think it is. I think it is up to the woman for sure. I don't think many people think it otherwise. You know, if a man was like you can't get an abortion, and it's just like
it's still her like choice. I don't want to like say choice isn't pro-choice, but like it's her decision. A guy can't be like no abortion. The chick can't. It's literally up to the woman.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing. Like that is not being conveyed by the conservative right, because that is not the issue. The issue is with religion. The issue is with morality. And what you said about Dave Rubin and how he's kind of like libertarian about it, I haven't listened to much. Like I saw a few debates on YouTube with like Dave Rubin and Ben Shapiro on abortion, and I honestly didn't click on it because I didn't want to see him get wrecked by Ben Shapiro.
You don't want to see the...
Like, I knew Ben Shapiro would just, like, nail in on him, and, like,
Cause I love Dave Rubin. I don't want to... It's like having two kids fight. It's like, I love you both.
You're
Stop
my
fighting.
favorite faggot!
It's bullshit!
Yeah, but I think there's a real dilemma there between, someone saying it, it is someone's choice. It is someone's choice, and it's just like, yeah, it kind of is. Because it already is a choice now, it'd be way different if it wasn't a choice right now, and we were voting on it to be a choice. I would be like, fuck no way. But the fact that it's already available now, and, the choice is already available, and you're like, well, now it's just a choice. And if you do it before a certain time, it's not that bad, It's just like, okay, there's a lot of, like, little nuances you kind of have to go through and figure out for yourself. And I think it's a really, like, personal issue.
So, question for you. So I think we both agree that aborting a baby is, like, it's immoral, it's wrong.
Yeah.
And there might be something like individual liberty, like freedom. So what is...
The thing is, I don't think it's like standalone morally wrong.
Okay.
And I cringe when I say that because I feel like later on I will disagree with that, and I'll think at any point it's morally wrong. Like if I have a kid, or when I have a kid, I think I'll be like, holy fuck, like
I could have aborted this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And no matter what week it is, it's still a viable person.
Or it could be.
Yeah, it's still viable.
Like first week, it could still be air quotes cells, but like that,
it will be in another week. It will be a person.
In a year, that will be like out of the womb. It'll be a person, but at the time, yeah. But I want to ask you a question after you finish.
I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah. I was saying like at this point, like I'm still weary of saying that like a person that has a child that isn't ready for it, or has, someone has sex with someone and it's just like a quick thing and they end up getting, if they do it within, I feel like most people don't find out that quick. So it's kind of hard to
That's
like...
the thing, yeah.
Most people don't find out till like the first trimester or something like that. I don't know what the statistic on that is. Maybe like a month in.
Yeah, if it was like a month and under, I honestly, and like...
See, that's the thing. Then I don't morally judge them. Then I think at that point, like, if it's like second trimester, like, that's the point where I'm like, I don't want to say I'm judging them, but I don't agree with the position. I don't agree with that. I'm being real, like, I don't want to like make anyone, like it's a very personal thing. So like I just don't think it's a cool thing.
And this isn't the most important issue, but it's one of the hardest issues.
It is. It really is.
But with the infanticide bill, like fourth term being it's born and you kill it. That I'm like, you're killing a baby that you hold in your arms. But the abortion thing is so hard for me, but yet it's not that. It's important, but it's not that important That's why it's so hard for me. Just because it's like
to people like religious people, it is like it. Well, if
Yeah.
you look at it and you're like yes or no, like this is like killing a baby or not. If you have no nuance to the topic, it is like urgent for both sides. Like if you think like if like there's plenty of people screaming that this is like the Handmaid's Tale, like you're just fucking oppressing women and not giving their right to choice. It's urgent for them, obviously, and then same for the right. You know, like you have those same people that are saying like you're murdering you're murdering children. Like this is worse than the Holocaust. Blah blah blah. Like I don't know, people have said that. But
yeah. So I have a question for you. Like I've asked people about abortion, and let's say we totally go pro-life route. Abortion is completely legal.
Ooh. All right, so our last one, we just came back from a break, or not a break, our last one cut out. We did like another 20, 30 minutes probably of talking. But, you know, I think it ended on Jason asking a question about what if abortion became legal and it was or illegal, sorry, and it was back to the doing abortions in the back alley with a coat hanger. And obviously,
to put it bluntly, but like illegally, not safe.
Yeah, it's not able to be done legally. So, you know, that scares me too. You know, I don't know, like I don't know how much that's like in countries that don't allow abortion. I want to know the statistics of stuff like that happening. Of like the one-child policy in China where people were, you know, basically just killing their kids because they couldn't have another one. I want to know the statistics on that. If it is, you know, anything significant, that is terrifying. I'd rather have abortion than that happening. I would rather have someone, you know, being able to, like having the choice to do an abortion rather than killing their child. Honestly, here, I don't see that happening as much, just because...
no one's going to want to do that if it's not safe. That's the thing.
Well, yeah, like, once it becomes... Once it's a born child, like, I think, if it's in a really bad situation, I think it'll be neglected, I think it'll be, like, malnourished, it'll be, abused, and that's terrible. But it's better than killing the child, like, after birth. I don't know. I don't know how that would work in America. I wouldn't want backdoor abortions. I wouldn't want, you know, illegal abortions. I would rather have it be done at a place like Planned Parenthood. But also, Planned Parenthood has, like, a quota for abortions to make. They're like, encouraged to sell abortions to people even if they're wary about it. Like, Steven Crowder did an interview with a Planned Parenthood woman that worked there, and she was pro-choice like her whole life. She started working there, she thought she was a part of an awesome movement, and then she was like a manager there, and she was, you know, higher up in the Planned Parenthood thing, and she's like suddenly being told she needs to like sell these abortions ASAP, and like she was like, well, we do more than that. Like, we offer counseling, and she had a whole bill for counseling that she proposed, and they were just like, look, that doesn't give us sales. That doesn't give us numbers. Like, we say that we do it, but we don't, you know, we're not going to try and coax someone out of getting an abortion if they're, like, half into it, you know. We're going to sell that abortion to that person that's leaning on it or thinking about it, you know.
Yeah, so... like, right now, I would say it's pretty safe, it's legal, and it's not rare, because the original Democrat proposition was safe, legal, and rare. So it's like, it's 1.5 out of... so kind of safe, pretty safe, legal, not rare, opposed to safe, legal, and rare.
It's pretty gross, the procedure. If you look at the instruments they use, if you look at just... the abortion clinics themselves, they're pretty fucking disgusting. Yeah. And the practice is pretty primitive. It doesn't make it any better what the process is, you know. It doesn't matter if it's scientific or anything. Like, it makes it a little bit less, it makes it less palatable when it's that, when it's the way it is now. But yeah, it's pretty disgusting the way that those Planned Parenthood clinics are run, especially in the abortion side.
But I do think it's interesting because I'm pretty pro-life. Like I don't want to say definitively because I do have this I do have this kind of like in my head I just feel like, okay, well, I'm taking, obviously the government has a right to life, liberty, and happiness, and one of the big things is life, so you're protecting life. But another thing is like liberty, so you have the freedom to do things. So that's where I'm conflicted. So that's I always ask myself that question, and that's a big thing I want to talk about is yourself and your ideology versus others and their ideology. And I think a big thing is, because we're right, a lot of people are right, a lot of people are left, and I want to just address that. Whether you're right or left, I just always ask, what is your ideology and why, and what is the opposition's ideology and why, and just come to the table and discuss it. Because once we stop discussing it, then that's where our civil politics end. I think you should always ask, what do I believe in? Define all that. Why do I believe in that? Come up with a rational answer to that, and do the same thing with the flip side of the board. And I don't think you should just write off other people's ideology. I honestly, as much as I'm conservative and I don't like liberal, I don't want to say liberal, lefty ideology, you should never be like, yeah, lefties are crazy, which a lot of them are. But like, if lefties are crazy, then you should take their ideas to the table and just totally refute them. So what basically my main idea is articulate your point, articulate their point, and just discuss it. Don't
I mean, honestly, you should know their point better than they do. Yeah. And that's the thing I try to do is we started talking about this when it was going without it actually going. We were talking about just being open to other ideas and just kind of questioning yourself at all times, and just being like, am I looking at this through just a completely partisan lens, and analyzing that. And I do that quite a bit. And it's important to just question yourself and just to really critique yourself on the way that you approach political discussions with people on the other side. And I think I have a super huge problem with that. And not so much when I'm in this political environment, when I'm already talking about my side and I'm comfortable and doing that. I think it's more with just people that I care about, and just when they come at a point and they don't have much information, and I have more information than they do. I know what they're about to say. I could finish their sentence. That's when I get upset, and I'll be come on, you gotta listen to what I'm saying, I'm basically talking to a wall right now, and I'll just get upset, and I'll, be and I'll just get all pissed and stuff, yeah. And that's something I'm definitely working on, and I think it's, I don't know how much that's happening on the left. I think it's happening quite a bit, but it seems to me that they don't know as much. They couldn't finish my sentence, and I could finish theirs a lot of the times. I'm reading articles, being a School of Fine Arts major, you're an English major, old anthropology major, or you're an anthropology minor.
No, yeah.
And we're both in the thick of it for, you more than me, but
for ideology. I mean, I wouldn't totally discount yours. You have some pretty bad classes too.
Yeah, and I wouldn't call them bad, but they're just completely against, or not against, but they're just completely opposite of what I think and the way I think about the world and the way I think about America. And it was interesting that I don't know if what was cut out. I talked about my professor that I really liked with graphic design, and he's a far lefty, but he talked about something today that it was basically aside from politics, but he was I've learned, he's been to a bunch of different countries, and he's I've learned there's kind of three ways to look at the history of America, and he's or of anything, I think. He's you could think that it was terrible and we're working towards something better. You could think that it's terrible now and a little bit better, or you could think that, I forget the third one, but I think that people, a lot of people are just taking that, it's terrible and it's getting worse, or it's terrible and it's still terrible, or they're not really taking history into account, and it's kind of a cop-out to say, like, look, it was a lot worse then, we're better now. But it's all about the lens you look at it with. Like, if you choose to look at, everything you see as oppressive and racist and sexist and misogynistic and xenophobic, like, you're gonna fucking go crazy. You're gonna, like Mo's teacher, you're gonna come into a new job thinking that everyone's a white supremacist when you really just got a job. You got a job teaching graphic design, and you're there to teach kids that came to school to learn it. You're not there to teach fucking activism. You're not there to teach kids about feminism or black rights. You're there to teach kids about graphic design. I didn't pay fucking $20,000 a semester to learn about your political ideology. That's the last thing I fucking came here for. And it's gross that that's happening, and it's gross that that's able to happen. I don't think that your view on the world should be that transformative on your life and how you live it.
Yeah, I mean, because I've had professors that were, just, they're professors. I've had professors that were just totally on the opposite side of my ideology, where it was way too far. And then I've had professors who were lefties, but they were, like, reasonable, like, they made sense. And even when students took their ideology and molded it into a radical one, they were kind of like, all right. I guess and I'm not outraged. I don't want to get anyone fired, but it's just, and I hate the whole censor fire thing. It's just like, when you go into it, know what you're gonna do and understand what your job is. Your job is not an activist. Your job is a professor. As far as higher education goes, which there's a lack of it in conservative, conservative centers or circles, I should say. Just keep it in your pants, to put it
honestly,
boldly.
Yeah.
Let's take both sides.
Yeah, no, and I don't want to take away the fact that college campus is meant to debate things. That's what all the people, that's what all the people say about college, is where you hear every fucking point of view under the sun. You take in everything and figure out about yourself, figure out what you value, figure out just kind of what you think politically, what you think personally, blah blah blah. I think politics is fine on the campus. I think, the fact that there's conservative clubs, libertarian clubs, liberal clubs, socialist clubs, I don't give a fuck about that. I'll make fun of it if it's a stupid slogan or something like that, yeah. Or if it's like a bad image, just like little petty stuff that I probably shouldn't be doing anyways, but it shouldn't be taught in the classroom. Bottom line, it shouldn't be done by a professor by force for an assignment or for a project.
Yeah, I know I had a class with a guy who didn't seem too political, but he was talking about European kind of Western civilization, how we're white, so back in the day our the cultural other was the black tribesmen. A white guy goes out into the rainforest, and let's just say a white guy goes out in the rainforest and a black tribe takes him, and they're barbaric. And I understand that, and he kind of talked about that with Black Panther, how if we took Western civilization but made it black, how that, you know what I'm saying? It's not.
I don't know what you're saying. Explain more.
So let's just say Green Inferno. Have you ever seen that movie? Basically, a bunch of white tree huggers are let's save the rainforest, and they get captured by these indigenous tribes who are colored, and then they do all these things cut off genitalia and put them in cages and stuff. And I understand that, and he was well, like Western, and this is not like total leftist ideology. It was like Western is white, and the cultural other is like the indigenous, the First Nations, kind of the colored tribes that are primitive. And I kind of got that. He didn't shove it down my throat, but he's like, okay, well, Black Panther kind of turned out its head was like the most, because Western civilization is the most advanced civilization. There's no doubt about that.
They made Africa the most advanced.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
And I was like, at first I was like, yeah, well, I voted for Trump, it's bullshit. But then after a second I was like, okay, I get that. It's not, I'm not like...
Oh, there's a cultural, like, they're fighting against a cultural other.
He was just addressing how, like, yeah, well, in, like, the stories, like, okay, let's just say, like, what makes sense to you? Just, like, a white guy going to Amazon and, like, a colored tribe takes him and, like, does all these things. You wouldn't be like, okay, well, a black guy goes to the Amazon and a white tribe, like, grabs him and does all these barbaric things. And this is not social.
Well, I feel it would be the same thing for me.
Like, yeah, but...
I guess it... Yeah, I mean, but, like, if a white guy went into a tribe, or went into the forest, a tree hugger went into the forest, and there was a bunch of black guys that killed him, and then vice versa, a black guy went into a forest, a bunch of white guys killed him. It's the same thing. I think the tribe is, obviously, like, not informed on anything, really, and they're... Like,
they're primitive.
Yeah, they're primitive.
They don't like the word primitive in anthropology, which is pretty stupid. But anyway, let's not get muddied up in the details. It's just, it made sense to me because it wasn't just social activism, like, hate the right, hate Trump. He just threw it out there. He's like, well, Western civilization is the best, and, like, it's mainly white, and the other cultures, and this is not anyone's fault. The other cultures are, like, colored. And he's like, well, Black Panther did it, where the blacks were... Because Black Panther's like 95% black, except for like 2 people.
Yeah.
And it's the most civilized culture. And it wasn't political. Like, in my mind it was, because I'm so political.
Well, but it was at the end. It was at the end. The last line, even when I wasn't political, I remember that the other day. The last line was something about, like, being locked up in chains. I don't remember it. Maybe it was kind of like being
thrown from the slave ships. They wanted to jump in the water to die rather than be slaves.
Yeah. And the last line, even when I wasn't political, I was like, don't throw that in there. Like, but it's fine.
And
it's a very stain on any history. It's just fucked up. But like,
and I get the general idea that I would rather die at my feet than live at my knees.
Yes, I agree with the statement. I don't agree with it being put into a blockbuster film.
I don't believe in the ideology.
I don't know. I feel like that was a stupid statement I made.
See, this is great because there's like discussion. It's
something to chew on.
It's like, okay, well, like the character Killmonger is right because I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees. Like,
I loved Killmonger.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah, he was a good character.
And I'm not just saying this because I'm like, well, blacks need to, like, Black Panther was great because there were so many black actors. I'm not saying this because, like, blacks need roles, but it was like, this has never been done before, and...
I thought it was sick.
All politics side, that was sick. Like, Chadwick Boseman, Michael B. Jordan, they were so awesome. And it was...
Yeah.
It was
I thought, sorry to interrupt you again.
No, it's fine.
But I thought the women guards of the Panther, the spear people, I thought, like, they were badass chicks, and I think a lot of movies are trying to do these like superhero girls, and with Captain America coming out, I have my
Or Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel, sorry. Yeah. She's coming out. I think she's gonna be badass. I don't know about her being as an actress. I don't think she's the best actress, but like, there's a lot of movies that are trying to do this like kind of flip on the male superhero thing, or just a male badass.
Yeah,
I thought those chicks were fucking badass. I thought they did it really well. I was like, shit, those people are crazy, and I wasn't thinking like it was a little bit manufactured at all. I thought it was like well done.
Yeah, but like my main point is like everything we've talked about, it's like genuine. It's not activism. We're not like whole color versus not colored, like white over black, women over men. It's just like it's really interesting, and I think people take it to the extreme. Like this, my professor, he introduced this idea of like Western civilization, like the white and the black, and like I can never stress this as much. I can never stress this as much because he's just like a nerd.
Yeah.
He made all these references to Star Trek and shit. He's not like, fuck Trump. He's just like, yeah, it's cool because, like, Western civilization is, like, white, and you see the white, and the culture other is usually the colored person. He's like, well, it's cool to see Western civilization is, like, black, like the African culture.
Yeah.
You never see African, like, in what other movie is African culture greater than the Western culture? And that is, I cannot stress this enough, that is not like, fuck white people, I love blacks. It was just cool to see. He just threw it out there. He's like, yep, so that's cool. And there was no activism. It was no, fuck white people, black people are the greatest. It was just like, yeah, it's cool how this has never been done before. And I think people need to subscribe to that more instead of white people are evil, victim Olympics. I just thought that was so cool. And
I think whenever you run into someone like that, where they bring up this point, and it's, like I said earlier, something to chew on, something to think about, and it puts you in this mindset where it's not so partisan that it makes you defend yourself, or it makes you think of things to just bash it down. Because us both being partisan, like we said earlier, we're trying to work against it, and those people on the moderate are so important to just being a part of the political discussion and being part of that civil dialogue and bringing people these ideas, to just move forward with the culture, move forward with the political landscape. And I think it's a good segue into... that was a good story. It's a good segue into this. I went to the bar last night, met this dude, and we were talking about Joe, my roommate, his professor. We've talked about it before on the podcast. She came into. Did I talk about this yet? We talked about this, didn't we?
No, the podcast broke off, I think. Basically, you talk politics with someone at the bar.
I mentioned the professor again. I mentioned the professor since we've been back, but I didn't mention the guy that I was talking with. So, the guy that I was talking with, he was really drunk and he was very curious. I don't think he'd ever talked to a conservative like that before, where we had a civil dialogue. Yeah, so I was like, I wasn't like stoked because he was really drunk. And I didn't know how it was going to go, and then we were in Burrito Union, which is like a Soviet, they have like a Soviet symbol, and like all this,
like the fat capitalist is a burrito, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, no, it's a cool place. I fucking hate the service there, it's terrible, but it's right next door. So, anyways, the guy was really interested, he seemed very curious, and so we started talking, and I mentioned the woman, professing the class, and, he was like, okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate. She came in, she was nervous, blah, 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 and he wasn't at all offended, he wasn't at all mad, and I was waiting for me to get a little upset, because I've had conversations like that, with my sister, with my mom, where politics get mentioned very lightly, and then my family will realize that I disagree with them, and then they'll push both, like 3v1 on me, and I'm like, what? I'm like, I'm your son, like, just stop, like, I disagree with you, just stop fucking yelling at me, like, and then I'll get mad and I'll say something stupid, so I get like very aware of how I'm reacting to things, or I try to be. So I was waiting for me to get like a little upset, and it never happened because he was really calm about it. And usually I'm calm about it. Like I'm mostly calm about it. I'm making it sound like I'm like some spaz, but so he was talking about it, and he's like, every single point I made, he's like, okay, but let's look at it from her point of view. And I was like, great, let's do it. Yeah, and we both talked about her point of view. I added stuff to his stuff, and I was like, we were both playing devil's advocate for both sides, and I thought it was awesome because I always try and play devil's advocate, and yeah, I think it opened both of our eyes up. That he and he kept saying, he's like, this is awesome. He's like, I love you. Like he's like, I haven't had a discussion like this in a long time or ever. Blah blah blah. And I thought it was really cool. And he mentioned that Vice documentary about blacks, black conservative people talking to liberal blacks, and he was like, yeah, after that I kind of he said a few things that really stuck with me. I obviously not too hard because I can't remember them word for word, but it was just something along the lines of just not, he's like, most people on this campus, he's like, if you hear that they're Republican or if they like Donald Trump a little bit, that you automatically don't like them. And he's like,
or you're racist or you're misogynistic.
Yeah, he's like, it carries so much weight. And he's like, and he asked me if I like Trump, and I was like, I don't know. I like his policies, blah blah blah, and he's just like, yeah. He's like, yeah, that's cool. He's like looking at it at a policy perspective. I haven't done that, but I think that's a really good way to break it up. If you support his policies, what more? If you like the character, that's a plus. But I don't. But that's really what a president's for, But anyways, great conversation, great dude. I invited him to the podcast, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, and the thing is, if it was me or you, or if you met a guy at the bar who was like, I'm conservative, lower tax rates, all this stuff, intersectionality, identity politics is wrong, you'd be like, hell yeah. But you wouldn't feel that connection. Honestly, if I, when I thought, I just felt like a love. You know what I mean? You meet someone of a totally different sphere. He's like, I hate Trump. I don't know if he said that, but totally different ideology, but you agree. You feel way more connection and love than someone who's like, yeah, I'm conservative, these fucking leftists.
Yeah, and that's just kind of another person to be buddies with, but yeah, no, I totally agree.
And that's what's so great, because it's not someone who's like, yeah, I agree with you, yeah, we've been over this 1,000 times, just shut the fuck up. And it's not a leftist who's like, you're fucking racist. It's someone who's like, we are completely different politically, but we have enough, tenacity to be like, you think that, I'm willing to mold. I'm willing to my ideology is malleable enough for you because you're just open enough.
Yeah,
and I think
eyes aren't closed.
And that's I feel like differing ideologies who are willing to listen and discuss is greater than the same ideology or far opposing ideologies, and that's what's just so great. I'd rather talk with a guy at the bar like that than some guy who's like. I mean, I'd love to talk to someone who's like, these fucking leftists.
Yeah.
But a guy who's like, I'm a leftist, but I get what you're saying. I'd much rather talk with that person.
Oh, yeah. I could have spent all night at the bar with that kid. Honestly, and I think the same thing happened. I think the same thing happens with the other side, too. I think it's very, refreshing to have that sort of thing and be like, wow, we're still a civil society, we still can talk about these things. I forgot where I was going to go with that, but
yeah, faith is not lost. When I listen to Ben Shapiro's show and I go on YouTube and watch all these political things, it's faith is completely lost. The left is killing infants, taxes you at 90%. Fuck you, you're white. And then some guys at a bar and just yeah, I get that, man. This is what I think, but yeah, sure. And it's dude, you are literally saving me from just going insane.
Yeah, I just want to shave you and be like, yes, yes, we need more of you.
Yeah.
And honestly, and it's oh yeah, this is what I was gonna talk about. And that's something I'm fighting every day is just I'm in this class where it's just I'm reading so much just anti-capitalist, anti-white, anti-male, anti-me. Just stuff, and that's fine. It's honestly, I guess it's not fine. To me, I guess I just need to. I'm reading it and I get upset. I'm like, why am I fucking paying so much money to read this article? Read this stupid ass thing about this small movement in the 70s. It's all these art movements where they're just throwing blood on the walls and like saying they'll go into a bathroom and throw blood everywhere and be like, women's periods, it needs to be like talked about all the time, and like it's like
look at this shit, it's blood, you fag.
And like honestly, my professor said cunt today in class and pussy like 5 fucking times, and it's like, okay, I get it, like it's a stigmatized word, I don't know what to do about it. We can't just say cunt and pussy all the time, like and what does it do? What does it do besides like it? They're aiming for this empowerment, and they like take these stigmatized words and use them for themselves. They'll name themselves the cunts, and they're like
against us.
Yeah, and it like empowers them, and it's like okay, you're calling yourselves the cunts, and it's great, but what does it really destigmatize the word? I think like most of the time, most people are like a man or woman in fucking North Dakota that are working 40 hours a week, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, the cunts. They're like, oh yeah, that's the same group of people. You know, like these people are out of their fucking minds. Like, there's better ways to go about this than, what I was trying to go for was saying like, I'm trying to read this stuff and taking the points that I agree with, and like there's definitely been stuff I've read this semester that I'm like, okay, you know, like there was a lot of protests for the Vietnam War in the art scene, and you know, a lot of it I didn't agree with, and a lot of it I'd be reading it and I'd be like, oh, this is fucking stupid, like
liberal bullshit.
Yeah, and I'd be FaceTiming Nick, and I'd be like, oh, Jesus Christ, like I'd read it off and be like, are you serious? And like a normal person would be like, what? Like just read the article, and I'm just like, fuck, this doesn't make any sense, and then there's definitely a lot of stuff that does make sense, and I think a lot of the underlying issues do need to be talked about. I think a lot of the methodology is pretty insane, especially in the art scene. Like they tend to just take it to the nth degree. But what I was kind of finding in class, so I'm like kind of a contrarian in the class. I obviously am probably the only one that's conservative. So I'll raise my hand when I get the strength and the courage to, you know, go like 30v1. But I'll raise my hand and just kind of say like a mildly contrarian comment, and I think it goes well. I think some people kind of see what I'm saying. The professor definitely does. The professor probably knows all the contrarian points because she's a smart woman, and you know she plays both sides well, I think. But what I think a lot of these people, these young like SJWs, I think they're reading it and they agree with it, and then, you know, on Twitter and on Facebook and on all this stuff, they'll retweet all these crazy things. But when it comes to the classroom and they're actually saying their own ideas, and it's not just like a retweet, or it's not like a policy, or it's not just this like stuff that they didn't think of, when it's their own words, what they're saying is not crazy. Like, these people that have like blue hair and like a shaved half of their head, like, I automatically like think, which is wrong, which is a wrong thing for me to do.
It's not a morally wrong, but it's like I shouldn't do that.
Well, no, they have these like automatic SJW signs, and I'm like, okay, these people are gonna be like saying crazy stuff in class, which I shouldn't think that at all, and I've stopped thinking that since I made this realization. But they raise their hand and they say stuff, and they'll critique the thing, but they'll say stuff that makes sense. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't think that it wouldn't make sense, but they have real ideas when they think of it themselves. And I think this stuff that's being fed to them is accelerating them, and they're not their ideas. They're someone else's ideas, and they think they agree with it. But I bet if they really chewed on it, they probably wouldn't.
Yeah, it's because I'm an English major and former anthropology major. I'm basically an anthropology major. I just haven't taken the one class or two. English major, anthropology minor, and people are reading off scripts basically.
Yeah.
I was in a class where, and I'm not saying all white, anti-white, toxic masculinity stuff is completely wrong. It's just we read this story where basically it was read from the point of okay, so it's a mother, a father, and a son, and it's read from the point of view of the son. And the son, it was like kind of Freudian, where the son, there was a lot of sexual undertones for the mom, but it was in the boy's perspective. So the boy had like this weird sexual thing toward his mom, and the dad was really lazy and kind of a piece of shit. And the mom died, and then they hated each other. And people were like...
The dad and the son?
Yeah, so the mom died, dad and the son hate each other. And it was like, when the wife died, the son was like, trying to give her CPR, and he was like, my mouth, her lips, her body. And then like the dad was like, is this how you want to remember like your mom? He was like, your wife, your mom. And then, because my class is 4 guys, the rest are chicks. Like 20, 30.
I have 4 guys in my class too, yeah.
Which is fine. Which is totally fine. I love women. And...
That sounds sexist.
What was a Trump impression?
I love women. The reason is I love women. Yeah. And a lot of these chicks were talking about toxic masculinity, patriarch kills. The girl who said patriarch kills was cool, seemed reasonable, and was level-headed. And so I come to...
Did she raise her hand and said that?
Yeah, well, like everyone raises their hand and talks about it. And the professor is like... The professor is really... He doesn't seem like an ideologue. He's just like, okay, well, let's just hear. And I have another class with his wife who's a professor, and she's like the same way. Like, they're like, all right, they're not like, fucking women, or they're not like, oh yeah, I'm fucking conservative. And so in this particular class with the husband, a lot of these girls were talking about toxic masculinity. I raised my hand, and I was super nervous. Like, my voice almost cracked. I was like...
I get like that, too. And when I'm about to say something that's, like, disagreeing with the whole class, I get fucking scared.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm gonna go bench press on that.
Get that kid out of here!
I'm like, I'm gonna stand up and do bench press and be like, the fact that this is totally immorality. It's totally false. And I stand up, or I didn't stand up. I was like... yeah, I don't think it's toxic masculinity. I think it's a lack of masculinity. And I named off some points, and it was like, alright. And then everyone looked at me, and it's like, come on, guys. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, they're like, yeah, toxic masculinity, because the dad didn't do anything. And I'm like, well, isn't that lack of masculinity? And everyone, like, looked at me, like, I was just like, I yelled the N-word.
That's not what I read.
Yeah, wait. You have different ideology? Fuck you. You hate women. I was just like... And I felt shameful as fuck. And then it was just like... Come to the table, some new guys. Like, let me get a one-on-one, not a 1v30 with, like, 3 dudes in the corner. Like, it's just... I feel bad. The other guys are probably just like, that makes sense. And they're like, shut up, you misogynist. And they're like, alright. But anyway, the point of my story is... to quote Ben Shapiro... Righteousness doesn't have to be popular. It just has to be righteous. And...
I was off film. I wasn't even reading that up.
Yeah, and it's like, guys, come on. Don't do 30v1. This isn't 1 versus 100 on Xbox. Like, just let's talk normally and not just give me the dead eye for saying something that's clearly true.
Well, and it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be where you need, or where you... get nervous to say your feelings on something in a college classroom. Like I said something, and it's really hard to like articulate what you want to say, especially when the whole class disagrees, because you're kind of like open, you're like observing everyone's reaction to it, and then you're like, fuck, am I saying this right? And like it's in slow motion, and you hear yourself saying it wrong, and then you continue down the wrong path. Like I did that. Well, anyways, but to summarize that point, like, that shouldn't be a thing. That shouldn't be, I think your professor was probably trying his best, but probably your other peers were just too far left to be okay in the classroom, you know? A professor can only do his best, and if he isn't giving in to every single point someone says and agreeing with them, I think.
Yeah, no, the professor didn't do anything wrong. He, like, addressed it. I honestly thought, part of me was like, because it seemed like the reasonable, logical thing to do. And I'm fine with 30v1 if it's reasonable, but if you're like Look, so this son and husband and Freudian like philosophy, and the woman died, and so like toxic masculinity. If it's 30v1, that's fine. If the
Wait, how
professor,
did the woman die? Why is it about toxic masculinity?
she just went in the other room and she called for help and she was dead. Okay,
It's hypothetical?
No, it was like a two. It wasn't the main thing. Wasn't about how she died. It was about how.
Well, how is it toxic masculinity? Like, how did that girl raise her hand and say toxic masculinity kills? What was her reasoning?
Here's. Okay, so it's a son, a father, and a mother.
Yes.
And so the son referred to her as mother, and the husband referred to her as wife. So according to one girl, she's just a label. She's a mother or a wife. And
well, it's the same husband and father.
Yeah, and so it's a patriarchy. Just two guys are like. And,
Well, what about a daughter and a mom and a husband? You call your dad, and you call
That's
your.
what I'm saying.
I mean,
I'm
I
not
don't know
calling
about
my-
marital relations. You might call them by their name, but like to a third person, you call them.
I'm not
my
calling.
husband or my wife.
I don't call my dad his name. I don't call my mom her name. I just say, "Hey mom, hey dad." And that's the thing. The dad.
Well, you're misogynistic.
Yeah. Well. Really was good. And they literally referred to the guy as falling into his easy chair like pudding. And she comes in with bundles and boxes, like inferring that she does the work. She brings home the bacon, and the woman literally before she killed herself, she like
She killed herself.
Yeah, well,
Gotcha. Basically, she just called for help and died.
she went in the kitchen, called for help, and died. And people were like she killed herself, and that's a different discussion. And she basically showed herself to the husband. So she's sitting there, and the son's like, "Can you make me a sandwich?" And she's like, "Yeah, sure." And then she showed herself to the husband, and the husband was like, "Yeah, I haven't seen that before. Put it away." And then she went and died. And he's basically like, patriarch kills. And it's like, that's not toxic masculinity. That's lack of masculinity. The dad should have been like, "That's hot. I want to fuck you." Should have been to the kid, "Your mom is not hot. You shouldn't want to fuck your mom." He shouldn't have been putting in his easy chair. He should have went out and made the money instead of the chick carrying home the bundles and boxes. And then I say that and it's like, whoa, that is just misogynistic, you patriarchal fuck. And it's like, you guys are brainwashed.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a weird scenario. That's a very... Yeah.
It was really Freudian.
Yeah, it's very Freudian. It's very, like, philosophical. There's too many open-ended things to draw, like, a logical conclusion to masculinity being the culprit.
Yeah, just one thing. So, like, the main thing was two guys, one girl, and a family. The girl did everything, and when the girl died, the guys didn't know what to do. So basically, the underlying thing was like women, like women in when they're not in a family, like the men don't know what to do with themselves.
Sure, I mean,
which makes sense, but it's not a patriarchy.
No, and I think any person needs another person, whether it's a woman or a man, to like live a normal, like not live a normal life, well, just to have like just, especially if you have kids, you know, like to be a single mom, fucking hard, you're scrambling all over the place, but to nail it down on masculinity, which is a trait in men that men can't do anything about, to nail it down on that, that's like saying. It's very sexist towards men, first of all. Like, it's very sexist to just say the fact that he's a man is why that woman died or why all of this happened. If those roles were reversed and it was two women and I don't know what those roles would be, but either way, if those roles were reversed and we were in the same society as we are now, that would be insane. If we nailed it on the fact that it was because she was a woman, it was because she was sitting on the couch, she wasn't doing anything, blah, blah, blah. That is fucking insane. And even now, like, it's still insane to just say, like, it's because of toxic masculinity. That guy was a douche. That guy was obviously not a real man. And there's a ton of shitty husbands out there. I think there's a ton of people that run out, they escape, and I think the government lets that happen and they support it. I think it's fucked up. And, you know, that's not something we should encourage, and it's gone up ever so more in the past 40 years.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I don't, like, we're spending a lot of time on literally one day of just, like, discussion. My deeper meaning was the son, you don't blame it on the son for, like, thinking his mom is hot. You blame it on the dad who literally was referred to as, like, falling, like, putting into his easy chair while the mom does everything, and he didn't discipline his son, so his son thinks his mom is hot, like, Freudian philosophy. That's not toxic masculinity. That's not being a man. You need to get balls. When your wife shows you her fucking body and pussy, like, show interest.
Well, it's the classic. It's yeah. I mean that's beside the. Yeah, I mean obviously.
Exactly, obviously, but the others didn't see it that way. That's the thing.
And it's just weird that she would do that because like it seemed like that was expected in the story. Like that's another thing that's kind of bad. The fact that she just showed herself to her husband, like that seems like it's kind of like property.
I mean it was a really weird story. It's not like you were like, why did she kill herself? Like why did she show her body? It was more like we weren't questioning why she did that. It was just. It's weird to say, but...
No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, we're not like, why the woman show her body? That's what was already presented, so we're interpreting what the, like, men reacted to it. You know what I mean? We don't have to spend too much time with it. This is just an example.
Yeah, no, what was I going to say? Well, it basically is, like, a well-summed-up version of men being portrayed in... I saw a video the other day of all the advertisements that men are just being portrayed as complete stupid people, like especially husbands, like everyone, like all these advertisements of men coming into the house and the wife has all this stuff and she's like, oh, you don't remember, blah blah blah, and he's like, oh shit, like yeah, and he just gets and sits on the couch with a beer and like does something. He's just completely negligent to life, like he's just like. He's completely oblivious, like, I'm completely oblivious to a lot of things, like, I'm so ADHD, like, I'm running here and there, and I'll forget shit, but, like, that's a common thing in the media, is to just, like, portray the man as a complete idiot, like, he'll come home from work, and, like, fucking all hell's broke loose, he has no idea, like, and that's just basically a well-summarized version, or a well-portrayed version Freudian style of that, you know, like just this guy that is a fuck. He's just lazy as fuck, and you know, I know people like that in my life. Like I definitely do. It's not uncommon, but you know, it's common in the media, which is I don't know if it should be or not. You know,
yeah, that's the thing. I think Gavin McInnes had videos in this where it's like car insurance, and the guy's like, oh, where do we park? And the girl's like, we'll park right here. And she just parks on the grass. She's like, yeah, I just did that. And it's like, here's the thing. Women are worse at driving. That's...
What? Whoa.
Dude, that is totally true. That is totally true.
I don't know.
Throwing allegations out there.
Well, men get in more car accidents statistically.
Okay, well, when you crash your car, you call
This time you could blame male toxicity as the culprit because they like to drive.
Okay,
my stepmom drives so fucking fast it scares me. We were coming back from Palm Springs one time. She was driving 95, and she just got a new BMW, so she was like taking curves at 95, and the car was like, it's like a nice BMW, and it was like shaking, and she was like, I could see her. She was like getting, she was getting off to it. And I was like, stop driving like this. Like, you're insane. And my dad was like, you just gotta let it happen. This is normal. Like,
from my personal experience, women are worse drivers.
My mom's a good driver. My mom's a good driver, and my stepdad's a terrible driver.
Here's my aunt. You know when you go to when you take a turn, you go into a parking lot. Let's say you're in a parking lot and someone's coming like intersectionality, but you're coming at not perpendicular.
Yeah.
And you see a car and you stop and you're like, oh, and then you wave them on. This is my aunt. She sees a car, stomps on the brakes. She goes and just clenches up, and I'm like, just calm down, just stop. And
there's a lot of people I know that are women that get very stressed out from driving.
Yeah, and driving is stressful, and like my girlfriend.
Bless her heart.
My girlfriend, bless her heart. Is she good at driving?
It's not like, well, she'll hit a curb every once in a while, but
Fine.
maybe this isn't because of men and women. I honestly do believe guys are better drivers. You can call me sexist all you want. This has nothing to do with like sexism. It's just like guys are better drivers because they're more invested in ideas, not people. But I'd rather be behind the wheel than in the shotgun hitting a curb.
Oh, 100%, dude.
And this is just like the people I know personally.
That's
I think everyone is like that.
Hey, come on.
yeah.
Hey, but when you drive with me, I'm not hitting a curb.
I clench my ass when you drive.
Well, dude, you're such a pussy in the passenger seat. I slow down a stoplight.
Yeah, you're not
like,
the best driver. You're not the
Yeah,
You're
go
not
fuck
the best
yourself.
driver.
How do you
Me,
mean?
I look at my phone a lot.
I've never
Yeah.
got a traffic ticket. I've never gotten into a crash.
I've only gotten into one crash, and I was.
Someone
Blaming on
scuffed my
ADHD.
car, but they turned in front of me. But I don't text while I drive. I just changed the song.
I go like 15 miles under the speed limit, and I'm doing everything.
I don't drive bad, dude. Fuck you.
Hey, can you not sort your groceries
Okay,
right now?
okay, hold on. Do you actually think I drive bad?
No. I don't.
Okay, but Mo does, and honestly,
No.
I don't think.
No,
I don't
think
say. I
that's
didn't say.
reasonable.
I didn't. Don't put words in my mouth. I didn't say you drive bad. I just said I clench my ass when you drive sometimes.
Well, yeah, okay.
The only problem is when you're coming to a stop and there's a car in front of us. That's the only
with
reason
me?
why. No.
See,
Oh, bullshit.
I
Oh
do.
my God.
I do
The only
sketchy
reason-
things.
the only
I do
reason-
sketchy
The
things,
only
but I
reason
go
you
slow.
brake a little late, man. You just kind of fly and then you just kind of. You don't slam on the brakes. You're good at braking.
Me?
It just no. I'm talking about.
Oh yeah. Okay. Here's the thing. There'll be a stop sign, like at the very edge of my vision, and I'll be like speeding up. I'm not like. I'm just like, okay. Well, I'm not just gonna. Because when I first started driving, there was a stop sign in the distance, and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna coast. Guys behind me just. And so when I see a stop sign, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna drive like normal. Got my foot on the gas a little bit, and then when I get to the stop, I'll brake. I'm not slamming on the brakes. And then Mo,
I never said that.
I come on. And then I've seen Mo brace up, and I'm just coming to a coast. I look over, and he's just like, "Fuck, that is bullshit." I'm not the best driver, but I've never got a traffic ticket, and the only time I've gotten into a scuff is someone pulled into me.
Alright, who fucking cares? Anyways, it's way too.
It's all women.
It's all way too personal. Like, I know dudes that are terrible at driving. I know girls that are like my stepmom, terrible at driving. Scares the shit out of me.
What do you think of my driving?
You're good. Yeah, you're good.
I have no complaints.
I feel like I'm in my dad's car. Like, it's just very clean.
But I've gotten the most accidents with you. One was an actual accident. Like I accidentally hit a chair.
Well, yeah, that's not your
that's like-
fault.
That was like I couldn't do anything
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it. The other couple weeks ago, that I could have done something about it.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would have done that too.
Yeah,
I didn't
well-
see that fucking car.
Yeah.
He must have had his lights off. I don't know what the fuck happened. That was stupid. That shouldn't have happened.
So the guy who's gotten in more crashes for me, minus the chair, is telling me I don't drive good. I'll
Okay.
take my own chance.
I didn't say that. I just said I clenched
You-
up a little bit.
That's all I said. That's
you're
all I
a bad
said.
driver.
He didn't say you're a bad driver.
Alright, well, we're all guys. No, I'm kidding. Who's pissed off now? No, but are we ending this?
Yeah,
Should we give some
let's-
final thoughts?
ended on the sexist note.
No, let's give some final thoughts.
I hate women. End of story. I'm kidding.
No, okay. Do you want to give final thoughts or?
Yeah. So I guess like a couple points that I really enjoyed talking about and kind of fleshing out were, just kind of being open and having your eyes open to the other side, and how just nice it is to have that discussion and just trying your best to take off that partisan lens and just flesh out those ideas on both sides and just talk about it. And then I kind of forget what we talked about earlier in the discussion. It was just a while ago now. But we talked about abortion. I thought that was interesting. I think it's kind of like something that, for me, that's ever changing. It's definitely something that I'm still working with about how I feel about it and blah, blah, blah. So I think, doing that same thing and just kind of thinking, like, not so much about abortion, just about anything, just kind of like being like, especially when a new policy comes into play or anything with just like any political movement on a certain issue that you have feelings for, just kind of like think about it, take it in, and be like, well, how do I feel now? You know?
Yeah. All the driving jokes aside, when you're really ideological, think about what you believe in and why reasonably, and think about the other person believes in and why. And actually come to the table with the discussion. Don't just yell out platitudes. Actually discuss what you're talking about, and I think that's how we better our society. So, is that it?
Yeah, I think that wraps it up. I don't know how long the second one was. Let's see here. 54.
Well, thank you for logging in to the Bunk Podcast.
Yeah, see you later, son.